In the first part of this series, we looked at the cards and the blinds that you'll use in your games of I Ain't Been Shot Mum. I'd go back and watch that video because it'll give you some background to the game and also an idea of some of the other basics that you'll need to play. In this second part of how to play I Ain't Been Shot Mum, we're going to look at spotting the enemy, how units move, and then also finally just have a look at the big men themselves and their role in the game. In both these cases, I'm not going to do a definitive list of the rules, but I'll give you an overview of the main points. The rulebook has many more rules than I'm presenting in these videos, but this will give you a flavour of how the game plays. In the previous video, we mentioned that all units have a number of actions, depending on their quality and the amount of men in the unit. Average veterans will have 3, these will make up most of your forces, but better quality troops will have 4, and some militia and green troops may only have 2. These actions are the maximum number allowed to be used in spotting, moving, firing, and many other activities when the unit's card is drawn. So first we're going to look at spotting. In the previous video, we covered what blinds are and how they represent troops moving in cover or soldiers concealed in terrain features, generally staying out of the sight of the enemy. Until they are spotted, all units are considered to be blinds. The system of using blinds allows for simple hidden movements and ambushes without having to draw maps of the table and plot your troops' positions. It's important to spot blinds, as blinds cannot be fired at, and the enemy can only be attacked when they are deployed from a blind. The unit attempting to spot the opposition's blinds or a concealed unit can itself be a blind, a deployed unit, or a deployed big man. Remember that an area of terrain can also be considered a blind, so you could attempt to spot a building to identify if it holds enemy soldiers. A unit cannot spot if their line of sight to the target is interrupted by a terrain feature or a high wall or a building, for example. Units that are attempting to spot in the open have the best chance. Units in heavily obscured terrain, such as a woodland, can only spot 4 inches into the terrain, or if they are within 4 inches of the edge and looking out. 2 units within the same heavily obscured terrain have to be less than 9 inches apart to spot one another. Spotting is simply done by declaring the target, measuring the distance and rolling 2d6 with modifiers and checking against the spotting table. A score higher than that indicated by the distance and terrain means the target has been spotted. The spotted unit is then deployed on the table within 2 inches of the blind's location. Once a unit has been spotted and placed on the table, it's assumed to be visible by everyone with a line of sight from that point on in the game. There are some distances over which automatic spotting is possible. When a unit passes within 6 inches of a concealed unit, then a blind is placed on the table to show that something is there. Also, all units within certain distances of the enemy, whether an attempt was made to spot them or not, and depending on the terrain that you're in, will be deployed on the table when the T-break card is drawn. Don't forget, the now deployed units cards will be shuffled into the game deck ready for the next turn. Spotting is important, and given that terrain features could be used to hide units, a commander who gives ample time to scouting out the enemy positions will have an advantage over his opponent in games. Time on reconnaissance is never wasted. Movement is handled quite easily in I Ain't Been Shot Mum. Each section, weapons team or vehicle will move individually. Up to 3 actions can be used to move, and the player must declare how many actions they are using before rolling the dice. For each action used, the player rolls 1 dice and moves that many inches indicated by the pips on the dice. They then must move the full distance indicated by the movement dice, unless they're moving to a specific point such as a building, or in line with another unit. Depending on the terrain the unit is moving through, the dice may suffer a penalty on their score. Crossing walls or hedges or other linear obstacles will cost the unit 1 action. Shock will also affect troops' movement. We'll look more closely at shock in the next video. Vehicles move in a similar way to men on foot, except that they can only move on certain terrain types, and also have a speed rating which will affect the dice score. Tanks are presumed to be supporting the infantry, so they have a slower movement rate than you would expect in other wargames to reflect this. It makes you use the models in a more realistic fashion than charging them pell-mell across a battlefield. And finally for this video, we're going to take a look at the big men. Command, Control and Communication, or C3 as it's known in military parlance, is at the heart of I Ain't Been Shot Mum, and although your units can activate when their particular card is drawn in a game and use their own actions, there are also big men that can influence the activation. The number of big men included in a force is predetermined by the scenario or the historical order of battle of your force. Poor quality forces will generally have less than an elite quality force, for example. Big men must adhere to the chain of command. They are generally in command of a particular section, in the case of NCOs, or a platoon or company, in the case of officers. In general, this hierarchy goes down the line, with a company commander being able to command all in the company, platoon commander able to command all those below him in that platoon, and the section commander only able to influence the section he is with. Each big man has a command initiative rating, and this tells us how many things he can do in a turn. This ranges from 1, the lowest, to 4, the highest. Generally speaking, the higher the commander's level, the higher up in command the big man is. However, it's not necessarily so that a level 4 big man is an officer. He may just be an NCO who has excellent leadership qualities. Whatever his rank, the important thing for the game is the command initiative, as this allows him a certain amount of actions and tells us what his command radius is. A level 1 big man has a command radius of 3 inches, level 2 6 inch, level 3 9 inch, and level 4 12 inch. Units that are within this command radius can be issued orders by that big man. During a turn, and when his individual card is drawn, the big man can attempt to perform a number of actions equal to his command initiative. Each action he takes will cost him 1 initiative. For example, he can move, he can attempt to spot, he can activate a section or weapon team under his command within his command radius. He can also reduce shock on a unit, and unpin or reduce suppression on a unit as well. You'll find a full list of big man actions in the rules book, and this is just an example of some of them. So for example, this level 3 big man has been activated. He uses 1 level of initiative to order the section he is with to fire. He then moves with a second initiative point to join the second section, and he reduces their shock level from 2 to 1 with his final initiative. However, when big men command a section or weapon team to activate, either moving, firing or any other action, they cannot subsequently take another action if their platoon card is drawn. Accordingly, if they have already activated on their platoon card, the big man cannot get them to activate again that turn. It's important to use the big men to their fullest advantage as soon as their card is drawn, as you may be waiting for the platoon card to be drawn only to be faced with a tea break in the end of the turn. Big men are at the centre of I Ain't Been Shot Mum, and using them correctly in the game will ensure your force is victorious on the day. Ignore them at your peril. In the next video we're going to look at firing and the effects of shock and morale on units. For more how to play videos, please check out the playlist on this channel. Thank you very much for watching.